All right, welcome into the Patriots Postgame report. John Zanis with Evan Lazar. This report's brought to you by CarShield. And let's get right into this game, Evan. And I think I don't think a lot of people saw the Patriots giving up 35 points with this defense and this secondary and being chewed up the way they were by Russell Wilson, who is on another planet right now. But nevertheless, 5 touchdown passes on this vaunted secondary was something we didn't expect to see.
No, definitely not. I mean, I think, listen, some of these plays, I just watched a couple of them back, and, the David Moore touchdown over Jason McCourty is obviously the one that really stands out, that you're just like, I mean, what are you going to do about that? I thought the wheel route to Chris Carson was a really nice wrinkle. That's not a big part of what Seattle does offensively, so I don't think the Patriots were expecting the running back out of the backfield like that, and they got pressure in Wilson's face, and he still made the throw. How many times did that happen? A lot of his touchdown throws down the field, there was a pressure being applied, but Wilson was just better, and then at the catch point, the receiver was just better. So I think that sometimes you have to tip your cap, but there are instances, I think, throughout this game where the front seven, the deficiencies in the front seven, we can talk about that, really stood out to me as, Belichick kind of has his hands tied schematically in some situations where they're going to get run on if they play 6 or 7 defensive backs. They know that. They figured that out in the first half tonight against Seattle. And then if they bring all of these linebackers on the field, then they're a little bit slower at the second level. And then also they don't have that pass rush where they can just rush 4 and get home consistently. They got to scheme it up. They got to blitz. They got to stunt. They got to do something schematically to get this pass rush free. And against a guy like Wilson, that can be really dangerous because that takes guys out of coverage, and that also allows him to run around back there and create plays.
Well, Wilson, again, is on another level right now, but he's not the only big name challenging quarterback that they're going to face on their schedule. Is this just going to be how it's going to be? Is there's just going to be some games where this defense is going to have a tough time keeping up? I mean, you have Mahomes, you have Watson. I mean, right. You've got, a lot of there's Jackson. There's a lot of tests coming in.
Yeah, Josh Allen too. Don't forget about
Allen.
him.
Right, Allen was on another planet today. I mean, right. For real though. I mean, Allen had
It's a good question because a lot of those quarterbacks too are pretty as good as Mahomes is, as good as these guys are. Sometimes their play can be volatile, where a lot of it is just big bombs down the field, and you just kind of have to protect against those types of plays against these guys. But I think what you're seeing is that there's a lot of stress on that back end. There's a lot of stress on that secondary to cover for a long time and to have tight coverage and not have any mistakes and not have any losses because the coverage breakdowns, and that touchdown to Lockett was definitely some sort of a breakdown where somebody didn't pick them up coming over the middle. You can't have plays like that. They don't have that margin for error because they don't have the guys coming after the passer in the front seven. So I think that's the biggest difference from this year to last year, was that this year they really are very, very reliant on the coverage leading the rush, right? The coverage needs to hold up. The coverage needs to be there so that the rush can get home. Whereas where I think last year is they had that ability with Hightower and Van Noy and Collins and Chase Winovich still in the mix and all these other players that they had in the front seven, to have that front seven and have the rush kind of help out the coverage a little bit more and prop up the coverage a little bit more. So now when there are mistakes on the back end, when there are coverage busts, or when a player like Gilmore doesn't have his best game or something like that, it becomes a lot more obvious now that they don't have the guys in the front seven to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, and that was the perfect storm. You had the miscommunication on the Lockett. It looked like Phillips was caught peeking in the backfield on the Carson score as well, and then 2 ridiculous throws where the coverage is pretty tight, but Wilson just drops them out of the sky there, and receivers make plays, and all of that happens, and boom, you've got 5 touchdown passes in a 35-point game. So I don't know that that's going to happen every time they face a good quarterback, but certainly it's enough to give you pause. And we talked about it.
I just saw that it was the yin and the yang of it, right? Where Belichick realizes, okay, we're giving up almost 6 yards a carry. I got to get heavier on the field right now to hold up against this run. And then when they did that, now that kind of brings in other issues that they have when Wilson starts to air it out. So I think that was what I was noticing with Belichick and the scheming that was going on defense was that they were kind of stuck. What are we supposed to do here? I think coming into the game, they really wanted to make the game plan defensively. We're going to keep everything in front of us. We're not going to give up any big plays, and we're going to force Seattle to run the football and just live with whatever we give up on the ground. That worked for the first half, and then Wilson just kind of started making ridiculous plays down the field with Metcalf and those guys. So that was sort of the conundrum, I think, for the Patriots was that they were having trouble stopping the run with the personnel that they had out there. Then they were having trouble covering with the personnel when they tried to, kind of combat that with stopping the run. Then they wanted to blitz Wilson and come after Wilson with the front four and the front seven to get some pressure on the quarterback. And then they were leaking in the back end. So they were deficient there tonight. I think we finally saw, obviously Miami didn't have sort of the horses to really show that sort of deficiencies. But I think tonight we finally saw the impact of not having those opt-out guys, the guys that left in free agency on that defensive side of the ball. Yeah,
and we talked about it in the pregame. You want them to run, but it doesn't work if they're getting 6-7 yards a pop. Right. So again, exactly that. That's what they ran. That's what they ran into here. Secondary's still good, and they're still going to make plays. So I think this is going to be more of an outlier sort of game. But,
it's also just a terrible matchup. As good as Patrick Mahomes is, it's a different scheme, right? It's a totally different offense, and they kind of have a better blueprint of how to attack an offense like that. This Wilson offense is a totally different animal to what they've really faced. A guy that's that mobile, that smart, and that physically talented, it doesn't come around a lot.
Yeah, who challenges you downfield the way that he does. So,
right.
Yeah, and so that's that. 35-30, again, an incredible game. On the whole, tough night for the defense. We'll see if they can put it back together. You got Vegas next week. Obviously, it's not going to be nearly as challenging an offense to face as Wilson and the Seahawks. So once again, just let everybody know, this report has been brought to you by CarShield. And CarShield is America's #1 auto protection company. So call 800-CAR-6000, mention code BEAT, or visit carshield.com. Use the code BEAT to save 10%. That's carshield.com. That's going to wrap up this segment. For Evan Lazar, I'm John Zanis. We'll see you next time.